The Bold Intern presents the Best of Both podcast with your host, Vijay Solanki.
So the idea behind the Best of Both podcasts is that the best knowledge in marketing and innovation is not all digital or all classical, but it's the right blend of both. So I'm on a mission to find accomplished leaders, especially those who have step changed their careers, and ask them 3 questions. 1, what did you learn early on in your career that you still use today? 2, what new thing have you learnt in the last 5 years that you use in your daily, weekly work life? And 3, what knowledge have you discarded because it just doesn't make sense anymore? Chris Reed and I met 20 years ago, joining 2 different media companies as marketing director. Chris went on to run a successful company in partnership marketing, and then he moved to Singapore, where about 8 years ago, he got into LinkedIn marketing. He's now a leading global expert for leaders and entrepreneurs that want to build profile on LinkedIn. He's written 3 Amazon bestsellers and is regularly on the global conference circuit. I take him back to his early days and get him to talk about his ideal blend of classical and digital marketing. He's my age, but he's got a mohawk. Check him out. Flicking through your LinkedIn profile, and I still haven't got to the end of it. I'm like, this is relentless. I've never seen such a long, which is clearly, because I guess given that's what you do, then you've also got to be an expert on your own profile.
Of course.
So, yeah.
It's all about search, because people don't realize that LinkedIn's a search engine like Google is. And if you just have .au or .sg, you just get found in that country. The same way on LinkedIn, if you only list down you are in Singapore or Sydney, you only get found in that country. Because if you list down like 20 locations, which is what we do, because I have my biggest market is Zurich, for example, so I can't exclude Zurich or Cologne or Berlin or San Francisco. We have clients there, but if you exclude it, you don't get found in those countries.
Right.
So it's all about using the LinkedIn algorithm against itself and actually just saying, okay, what does this work? How does this work? So as a result of that, I've got the most search profile on LinkedIn because I'm using it like no other person's using it. But as a result of that, I've got 250 positions currently because I've got like 10 for all the major, or 15 for all the major brands in all our major cities.
Right. Amazing. Yeah. Okay.
And we do it for our clients as well. You know, they have top 5 tiers of cities, and we list them down. They suddenly get found in those cities for work. So it works.
Right. Okay. Wow.
So what was the idea behind the podcast?
So, pretty straightforward actually, and it's great that it's you and me talking because this was something that I think happened probably around the time you and I first met, which I think from memory was either 1999 or 2000. And I think on the 1st of January 2000, everything was still working. You know, there was that whole Y2K concern. And so for me, that was the beginning of the bifurcation of digital. And it was the beginning of what I summarized last year as almost 2 routes and 2 types of people. And part of it is generational and part of it is just industry choices. So I think of, at one extreme, you've got digital natives. And at the other extreme, you've got traditional business people who are amazing and accomplished. But it felt like last year, over the last couple of years, that some days it looks like 2 different species of human being. And my kind of strongly held hypothesis is it's not about being all digital. And I work with a bunch of startups where, funnily, I find myself going back and going, well, let's talk about what a brand is and let's talk about who your customers are and how you find them and stuff you and I learned 25 years ago, right? And then the other extreme with traditionalists who are still, you know, even though they've made good progress in digital transformation, they've often done it by hiring ahead of digital as opposed to, and you'll know this because you're doing it with LinkedIn, with CEOs probably around the world. So for me, my hypothesis is it's about the best of both. but what does that blend look like? So I got out my little black book and I thought, who would be the 10 to 20 smartest people that I know who could talk with both knowledge and experience about the best of both? So you were pretty significant in that list, partly because we've got history and we started, and actually, you know, I wanted to even, as part of this podcast, go back to the days of Rivals, if you're comfortable with it, because you got into, well, you understood the power of the internet quite early on. And so on, and then I guess, whilst you and I have stayed in touch, I've never really uncovered the kind of detailed journey that got you to the beginnings of LinkedIn and then got you to now. And then how you reconcile all the new stuff you've learned with all the old stuff you've learned and what your blend looks like. So that's the essence of the podcast. And then within it...
Are you picking out people in England as well as Australia and Asia?
Yeah.
So you got
Yeah, so I'm folk in the US, folk in Europe, folk in Asia Pac. And yeah, I'm trying to build a global story. And part of it is, it's just something that's intriguing. It's an itch I've got to scratch. And I thought, shit, actually, I know all these amazing people and they'll have a point of view on this stuff. And I've tried to bring a structure to it, but we don't have to follow it rigidly, which is about what you learned early in your career that you use today, the new stuff you've learned, but then particularly interesting, I think, and particularly for someone like you, is what's the stuff you've unlearned? What's the stuff that you went, 20 years ago it served me well. Now it's a pile of crap or it's completely irrelevant. I just think you're like my perfect person to have this conversation, given what you do and given we met 20 years ago.
Yeah, wow, fuck.
Does that make sense?
It does. Let's go for it.
All right. So I'll press record and I'll basically... How do you want me to introduce you, Chris?
Well, you know, the only CEO with the mohawk. Come on.
How long do you have to spend on that on a daily basis?
Too long. It's more about how I've spent it in the hairdressers every 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. Fine. You must be really close to your hairdresser.
Very close. It's my most expensive thing I spend money on, I think, apart from my wife.
If it's part of what makes you different and better, then it is the brand.
I get it. You escaped to that, Vijay.
Yeah, I'd have to stick one on, really, wouldn't it? Right. So, are you ready?
No, I'm ready.
Awesome. Welcome to the Best of Both podcast. I am Vijay Solanki, the founder of the Bold Intern, and today I'm joined by somebody very special. He's physically special because he's a CMO with a mohawk. I'm jealous because I'll never be able to have a mohawk. Chris Reed is also someone I've known for 20 years. He's been a pioneer in terms of identifying LinkedIn and social media and the importance of personal branding. And he's built that into a global business. And he couldn't be more perfect in terms of the sort of person I'm trying to interrogate for my podcast series. So Chris, amazing to see you, mate.
Amazing. There's still being in touch and communicating. It is great the way that we both travel the world and different brands and manage to kind of remain kind of constant friends, always learning and catching up from each other. So it's fantastic that you're doing this new venture. And I love the fact you intern in all these wonderful places learning. You have a great example of people just learning the whole way. It's fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you. And I think part of this is about how the older generation, the wise generation, and how we keep up our learning. But what is the right learning? So I want to start, Chris, if you'll humor me, to go back about 20 years. So Chris and I, Chris is what I call a proper Geordie. I'm a fake Geordie, but we both have a passion for a football team, or some people call it a soccer team called Newcastle United. And it's quite exciting times because finally they might be acquired. Are you feeling excited about that?
Only if it ever goes through. We've been here before and it hasn't gone through yet and they haven't shown the money yet. So, it's all about the money, isn't it?
Fair enough. All right. Well, but it'd be great to start with a bit of your story. Growing up in the Northeast, we met when, funny enough, actually, it was around sport. You were taking a marketing director role way back when for an early sporting internet company called Rivals.net. I'd love to take you back to there, and maybe you could talk through how you got from there to today.
Well, it's brilliant because you look at Rivals now, and that was 20 years ago. And the problem with Rivals was that basically internet speeds were too slow. So we had video 20 years ago, and you can imagine trying to do video 20 years ago, you just couldn't do it. So I left the Times, the safety net of the Times, the Sunday Times, old established media, weren't really looking at online at all, really thought that online was a fad, was never going to happen, and then jumped to kind of Rivals.net. Had a sister company called Rivals.com in the States, which was about basically college football and passion areas there, but it wasn't official sites. The beauty of it was fan sites. It was all about the passion, the fans, which I obviously understood as a Newcastle fan, and everybody listening to this who supports a team of any kind could follow it. And that's the idea. We had football, we had rugby, we had cricket, we had every kind of sport on there you could possibly imagine. We had rugby league and rugby union, for example. You had cycling on there. So you had all the different passions for all the unofficial sites of those teams. And you competed against each other basically with arguments and debates and so forth, with a big portfolio. And the idea was you'd basically sell that to advertisers as one hit to hit all the fans of the United Kingdom and Europe, for example, of every single sport, but in an unofficial, more edgy kind of way. But of course, the internet, crashed, September 11th and all the rest of it came down, and basically ran out of money, as all these things do. So I launched my first entrepreneurial venture on the back of that. So it was like 2 years very eventful. Literally, I was the remaining only director left after they took it over. Marketing person without a marketing budget, and going, oh, okay, here we go again. And I've done that previously in my career at Hammersmith Odeon, for example, where I had the best concert venue in the whole of the world, but no money. But a venue that people wanted to have association with. And I learned very much about partnerships, and Rivals is all about partnerships too. It's like how do we partnership with, at the time I think it was Loaded, when you were marketing director there, and the Ignite and the IPC brands, for example, and radio stations. And how do I partner? Do quid pro quo, we did Playboy TV, we did loads of things where we basically just quid pro quo media because we couldn't afford to buy any anymore, because basically the revenues were going down after the .com #1 blew up. So my first entrepreneurial venture was actually doing partnerships, because I'd learned about doing partnerships at several different places, including the Times, the Sunday Times, including Bauer Media, which is a massive, Bauer is in Australia, Bauer in the UK is mass market, Women's Weekly is mass market TV. And doing partnerships there where you're basically saying you can have a page here and I do this, we can do branding, database marketing and so forth, quid pro quo. So it's all about how you can bring brands together. So my first venture was doing that. It was very successful because it was working for people like EMAP and Hammersmith and Odeon and cinemas and all the people I'd worked for in my career. I then got them to become clients, which is, I think, quite a feat. And it's one of the things I learned very quickly, and you should never really burn too many bridges too quickly, because you might need those people again. And sure enough, for example, I had a falling out with EMAP at the time, EMAP Radio, and I basically sued them and I won. I basically realized pretty quickly that I needed them a few years later, so then we basically built the bridges.
Can you say what the issue was? Or you're not allowed to?
This was when EMAP Radio was like, almost cowboyish. It's like, Kiss FM, and they had no HR, they had no legals. They were just, running the seat of their pants because they were growing so fast they had no structure. And so they got rid of people in an illegal manner. They didn't know that my wife at the time was an HR director, and she knew everything, every single thing you needed to do and didn't do. And she said, you haven't done this, so you can sue them. And so enough, they didn't have a leg to stand on. I sued them. And got the money, all the rest of it. But I realized pretty quickly that actually just suing people left, right, and centre wasn't a great way to go. So you do need to build bridges. And ironically, a couple of years later, I had drinks and beers, all the rest of it. They just see it as business. People who are sensible don't take this as grudges. They realise it's business. And my granddad taught me when I was 9 years old, it's about who you know, not what you know. And I think that goes to that. The reason why we kept in touch, because it's all about who you know, not what you know. I think it's more valuable to know you than it is to do a master's. Because you provide more information and more engagement. When I follow your LinkedIn feed, for example, when I hear about your different ventures, when I read about you doing the internships, I learn so much. I think that it makes me think about different things, which I pass on to my team or my clients. And that's, one of the reasons why, being an entrepreneur is amazing. So I sold my first venture after only a year because, people are looking for, small little companies to build up. After a couple of years there, they overexpanded, as many of these people do. They didn't quite hit their targets, for example. So I actually bought the company back and launched cocktail marketing. And so cocktail was a bigger version. And I think we worked for you. I think AFPC was a client, in fact.
I remember now, yes. Yeah, it was quite unique. I mean, I think there's a couple of things to explore, which is the things you learned early on and where you found your entrepreneurial streak. But what struck me that was quite unique was you turned, and maybe it came from being a marketing director without a budget on a number of occasions, but you turned a space that I looked at as a marketer and thought, yeah, that's just promotions. We'll give away tickets and do an on-pack, or we'll be the media owner that's giving away the tickets to a product brand. But you made that into something that was bigger and more sustainable. So where did that idea come from to do that? And back to your entrepreneurial spirit, where did that come from?
It came from, the partnership idea came from my first couple of jobs. Because my first couple of jobs, I worked for HMB Retail and then Hammersmith Odeon, where literally at 20 years old, I was given the time, I'll go and market all these concerts, 200 concerts a year, go and market this venue, but you don't have any money. I'm going, okay, how do I do this? Right, okay, I'll go to Virgin Megastores because they have the bands that I have in the venue, and they have at the time, vinyl and CDs, basically, so we'll do a quid pro quo, whereas I'll do a banner and branding and say, you can get this music here at Virgin Megastores, and by the way, this concert is on at this date and you should buy tickets, so it's a quid pro quo. I did the same thing with Capital Radio. I got airtime on Capital Radio got branding and activity. Levi's even sponsored our our staff, for example, with jeans. We had branding. They sponsored the leaflet, and then because otherwise I wouldn't have a leaflet. And it was the days where you listed all the activity on the leaflets, and even the advertising we used to do in the Standard each week. I used to go to the promoters and get £100 for each one of them to afford a Cosmopolitan advert to place an advert because we had no budget.
Hang on, Chris, you were crowdsourcing advertising before crowdsourcing was a thing, right?
Totally, because we had no budget. So you have to basically, if that's your first job, then basically you get used to pretty quickly not having a budget. So even when I had a budget, for example, at the Times, I didn't always use it because I was so used to going, well, I'm the Times. I can get anything anywhere because everyone knows what the Times are. So if I go into a shop or a retail and I say I want branding and sampling all over the place, and in return we'll do this in the paper, then basically people say, yes, of course, I want to get into the Times. Who doesn't want to get into the Times if you're targeting that kind of target audience? So I always had that mentality. My marketing director, my boss at the time, used to complain that I didn't spend the budget. So it's like the irony. Because I was brought up that way immediately. I don't know if it's part of my heritage being a Geordie as well. Don't spend money you don't have and all the rest of it. But you learn pretty quickly to be nimble and be specific, which is why when Cocktail, which went for 5 years, was very, very amazing because literally you could do two brands together. The biggest challenge we had was that both the brands we were doing in terms of partnerships, and you might remember this, they both thought they were the most important brand. So I described it as like solving the Middle East peace process 10 times a day, every single day. Because you've got two people who basically haven't, no, my logo needs to be bigger. No, my logo needs to be bigger. And it's like, you're trying to get, but you both have to have equal sized logos because you're both important to this. You want that target audience, they want your exposure, X, Y, and Z. So pretty quickly we learned all that. But that then hits you into 2008, 2009, great financial crisis in the UK. So not a great time to be an entrepreneur, now, especially not a marketing entrepreneur. And it was like, the company went like that, and then basically we tried to sell it, but it was the wrong time to sell it. So that's when I escaped to Singapore.
Just before we dive into Singapore, I'm intrigued in terms of building partnership, because I think there's some powerful principles here. How much of that is around soft skills and egos and people? How big is my logo, etc. Versus kind of quantifiable skills and the numbers that you might use to define media value.
Completely. Totally. Great points, because they're both, because you need the soft skills. I would go in and get two marketing directors who both thought they were the kings to come together for the greater good. But I'd also get smaller brands to partner with bigger brands, because that bigger brand needed that smaller brands. So a great example was something like Coca-Cola, who had everything, but didn't have this little niche over here. They knew this niche was full of influencers and the people they wanted to influence, the youth market, and they wanted to get to them. But these people were resistant. They wouldn't take the advertising dollars, they wanted to, but they were open to do a partnership. And sometimes a bigger brand needed access to that smaller brand through a partnership. And I would broker that deal. And that's all about, that is very much about who you know, not what you know. I knew the marketing director here, I knew the marketing director there, put the two together. And I brokered an agreement. We put the agreement together. And it's very much about soft skills. But it's not the soft skills of the marketing director, because they had two big egos and didn't want to talk to each other. But for the greater good, I brought people together. So yeah, totally right. And that's what, to me, LinkedIn's all about. So if you talk about LinkedIn and kind of like my ideas about LinkedIn and why I was very passionate about LinkedIn, because to me, LinkedIn's all about partnerships and working together, and you like this and I like that, and we're sharing things. Can you introduce me to so-and-so? So it's all about who you know, not what you know. Because it doesn't matter actually what you know, how many degrees you have. It's all about kind of like, oh, can you help me with this? And I'll help you with this. And oh, I'd love to do this for you and I'll share this. It's all about partnerships.
Right. So do you think and let's go to Singapore now, but that your experience and your passion for partnerships was a precursor to what you then did with LinkedIn?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, because when I came to Singapore, for example, I didn't know anybody here, so I joined a partnership marketing agency as their regional director. I didn't know anybody in the whole of the region, so I was like, how do I get business? So I started using this little platform called LinkedIn 10 years ago, which had like a few thousand people on it at the time in Singapore. Even the UK, I only had like 200 connections. But if I asked somebody there if they knew somebody in Singapore or Asia, they could introduce me to somebody. And I thought, this is interesting. It's all about who you know, not what you know. It's all about 3 degrees of separation. And I realized pretty quickly you could use the database because people voluntarily put their profiles on there. And unlike Facebook, they put where they worked. And you could then see who you had mutual connections, their experience, if they went to university in Newcastle, or if they were an expat, for example, like me, and they might be in Shanghai or in Sydney or in Jakarta or in KL or here in Singapore. So I learned pretty quickly this is a great way of actually getting to people without having to call people up or send an email. And people change jobs all the time very quickly in Asia. So it's, the databases were outmoded. But LinkedIn, you always maintain that, and it tends to be your personal email. And you tend to check, and you tend to update it, because people realize if they Google someone, their LinkedIn profile comes up, it has to be updated, especially if you're a leader. So that's very much how that kind of worked. I started doing that for the company I was working on. That company said, this is amazing. You're winning all this business from the whole of Asia Pacific. How are you doing it? Train our team. And I trained their teams in Australia, in Dubai, in England, in America, and in Singapore about how to use LinkedIn. Because no one knew how to use it 10 years ago. People were still recruiting through it and didn't think they could use it for sales. I was using the same principles of data for sales, not recruiting. And that's when LinkedIn then created, a couple of years later, Sales Navigator, because they obviously capitalized on the fact that there's obviously people like me and other people like me around the world who are using it for sales and marketing, not for recruiting, but just still using the principles of data and connecting and messaging and engaging in content marketing, for example.
So as you started in those early days of building out your entrepreneurial ventures on LinkedIn, how much of what you'd learned early in your career were you bringing to bear? And to what extent were you bringing in new thinking or new skill sets?
I know it's a great question, because it's basically you're always using the principles of your first jobs. Like, for example, my first job was working at HMB. I did a marketing degree at the time, and I knew that the theory of the marketing degree was very different to what was actually happening in the shop. And I kind of we used to go back to the university and go, that's not how it works in the shop. I'd just been to the shop and I'd worked the whole day Saturday. That didn't happen at all. Nothing happens like that. That's rubbish. And actually that experience was brilliant, because you could then see when actually qualifications were useless. You'd actually much better actually having a real job, actually learning other principles. And I made sure I went down to HMB, the head office in HMB, and I talked to the marketing director and talked to the head of product, and I went down to various launches, and I made sure I learned about what happened in head office, because that again was very different. Head office in London was very different to what happened in Newcastle. And it was like, they might have been part of the same chain and told what to do, but half the time Newcastle would just ignore what they were told to do, like London. And it was interesting to see that in terms of communications, and that's why it's about team building and relationships and getting people to understand what is a win-win and negotiation and so forth. So the principles, again, a partnership comes to play. You can't just tell people what to do. You've got to explain the benefits and the motivations and why they're doing it and the greater good and so forth for actually doing so. So I think definitely the principles of marketing, it doesn't matter what your job you have, whether it's retail, HMB, or a nightclub job I had, or working in a venue, or whether it's LinkedIn marketing, the principles are still the same. The faxing isn't. So we used to have to fax people because obviously emails didn't exist, the web didn't exist. So I was with Odeon. When we had a new concert on sale, I used to I remember standing by the fax machine for several hours faxing all the media organizations because the only way of communicating with them at the time, faxes.
Right. But you're saying whilst there were some principles, sounds like you weren't a huge fan of the kind of academic,
Correct.
More about what you learned hands-on from your first few jobs. And how much of what you learned from your first few jobs then do you still use in your day-to-day or week-to-week in 2019?
That's a really good question. I mean, I would say that the relationship skills, the building skills, the fact that you have to go for lunches and beers and you have to have, do the out of work stuff to basically capitalize and to close deals, that is a principle that remains now and it remained then. If I wanted to do a deal with Capital Radio, I used to take the marketing director out for lunch or for beers or to a concert or whatever, I invite him to Hammersmith Odeon and say, you get VIP tickets, come and see this act and that act, and that would help me do a deal with them because he could then go, okay, yes, I explain that, I can see my listeners are going to be here, I'll do this for them instead. It's the same now. If I basically, talk to a client about the benefits of LinkedIn, how they need to enhance their personal brand, it's much easier to do that over a beer. And kind of those softer skills in terms of doing, looking at even if it's partnerships or peers, or you want them to introduce you to somebody else or help you, for example, then basically you still need to do that kind of off-site and not just on-site. I mean, the principles of marketing it's a very, very convivial kind of industry and atmosphere. And in Singapore, it's very easy to go out 365 days of the year because unlike Sydney, it doesn't get cold.
Yeah, it's winter now. Right. Okay. And as you built your LinkedIn business, what were the new skills? What are the most important new skills that you brought in, both in a marketing sense, but actually also in a broader leadership and business management sense?
That's a really, really good question as well. I mean, I think content marketing. I think above and beyond, I wasn't really doing any content marketing because partnerships are all about kind of like inventory, if you like, and brands coming together in space and so forth. Not a lot of content going on there. You have a mechanic. But now, obviously, LinkedIn's all about content. Whether it's a person or whether it's a leader or whether it's a company, it's all about content. Now we're doing video more. Ironically, going back to Rivals, when video actually works now. Video is king. Video literally is king. Video is kind of like is the way to go and communicate. So I'd say that content marketing is the biggest skill, and everyone's still learning about it. And there's no particular science to it because a post which you think is going to go viral, which you spend lots of time on, and then dies, that basically doesn't go viral. And a picture you put up of you basically having a good time with a couple of people gets 20,000 views. You go, oh, why? I put no effort into that, but I put lots of effort into this. This one's worth reading. That's just a picture. But people it's still a social media network. So you learn every single day what works, what doesn't work. And I have the benefit of working with hundreds of different clients across the world. So I can see what works for different people across the world and also which countries across the world. Which ones are active, which ones are engaging, which ones aren't. And where you need to do a bit more effort and take your time a bit more, for example. And obviously, I learned a huge amount about leadership as well because I had a massive cultural change when I first came to kind of Asia, having managed teams in the UK who used to stay. I never had a problem. People used to stay for years and years and years. I experienced in Singapore, basically, people go like that. Next job, they stay at home with their parents without work. All these kind of things, which are basically, to me and you, having left our mums and dads, for example, we couldn't go back to our mums and dads. We had to basically work, otherwise we were homeless. And that doesn't happen in Singapore. Basically, if you lose your job here or you have no job or you feel like quitting, you just live at home with your parents until you get married in your mid-30s. So basically, the culture here is very, very different. So basically, you need to be, and I'm not particularly great at it at all. It's one of my great weaknesses, which is why I employ a series of GMs to basically do that for me, to basically realize how you can do that. My strengths have always been sales and marketing, and that's what I like doing. The touchy-feely side of the other things, I'm not very good at. I think it's a Newcastle thing. I still think Newcastle does touchy-feely.
No, only down the big market on a Saturday night. There you go. And you'd need to be a cultural anthropologist to understand that, or be from Newcastle. I'm intrigued then that your LinkedIn journey, has that given you more insight into things like country differences?
Of course.
Can you share any kind of highlights of things that you've learned particularly through LinkedIn or through the content work that you've talked about?
Yeah, I mean, totally. I mean, there's a great quote which I like, which is like, I use it all the time in my presentations, which is, and I meet all the entrepreneurs I meet saying, oh, I don't want to promote myself. I don't want to promote myself. I said, if you don't promote yourself, there will be some American who promotes themselves and they'll win the client, the job, the investment, and they'll get the kudos. So you have to be more American and less English. And it's a real cultural change. People suddenly, they don't want to do it. They basically, no, I don't want to share, I don't want to do self-promotion, I don't want to promote myself. I said, if you don't do it, you won't win the work. And you've employed me to win your work. If you don't promote yourself, you won't win the work. So you have to promote yourself. Now,
That's interesting you should say that, though, because how do you reconcile that with the fact that if I was trying to win business in America, then absolutely. But, there's an expression that's used in Australia sometimes, tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah.
And some of us are a bit conscious about, not wanting to be too brash. So what's your
worse.
around?
It's worse in Asia. It's much worse in Asia. Singapore, most of the CEOs of the local companies here are not even on LinkedIn because they do not want to be seen as being the leader. So we have a fundamental problem when we go into these companies and say, we need to manage your CEO's profile. They go, the CEO's not on. I was like, okay, bye, we're off. And literally, we can't do it because if the CEO is not on, why should anyone else be on? That's why Richard Branson works. That's why basically, because he's leading it. Elon Musk works because he's leading it. Arne Sorensen, the head of Marriott Starwood, is because he's leading it from the front. Now, you and I both know they're not managing their own profiles. They've got teams of people doing content and beefing up their profiles, but they're leading from the front. They're at least looking over the content and saying, this is what I'm going to put out there, my passion, my purpose, and this will help me win clients, this will help me inspire my employees and my shareholders. But you need to basically be promoting yourself no matter how comfortable you are or uncomfortable you are with actually doing so. Like even in London, for example, I was never used LinkedIn, didn't do that many talks. I didn't need to because I knew everyone in London. But as soon as you come over here, you suddenly realize as an expat, I don't know nobody at all. You have to get some kind of credibility. So you have to go say, okay, I'm going to do lots of talks and add value and create, some kind of, like a controversial personal brand. So you have stand out and use the mohawk, for example. I didn't have a mohawk in London, didn't need one.
No.
It's like I didn't have these, rock t-shirts I used to wear in London. I used to wear a three-piece suit at the times. Yeah. But you change and adapt, because you have to basically, first of all, the climate, but also you have to stand out. You have to earn respect. You have to prove your worth. And bearing in mind, I'm not just targeting one city as well. We've got clients in Hong Kong and Shanghai and Jakarta and KL and Manila and, Europe. Zurich's our biggest market, and Cologne and Berlin and Munich and all these other places.
So do you present yourself in a slightly different way? And do you dial things up and dial things down as you're telling your story across all these countries?
I think you have to, it's a conscious thing to basically dial it up completely. Because if you don't, you just get lost. A lot of the time you have one chance to impress people. And if you don't do that, you're gone. So you come back, you have to be totally authentic. I passionately believe in being authentic. But you also have to be, true to yourself. So if I was to wear a suit now, it'd be a complete fraud. So I am totally myself. And that turns a certain amount of people on. It turns so many people off. It's why all our clients are entrepreneurs and they're not multinationals, because multinationals don't get this at all. And I don't fit into any particular box. They go, why do we put this LinkedIn person who's got a mohawk and tattoos and all the rest of it? I know we can't present him to the board. That'll never wash, particularly kind of Singaporean boards who are very kind of conservative, very conservative. Yeah, so you have to basically, hit your target audience and use your marketing now to say, okay, who are you targeting? And I'm very clear. All my books are called For Entrepreneurs. We're targeting entrepreneurs and founders. All our clients are entrepreneurs and founders. We do masterclasses for multinationals, but as I mentioned before, a lot of multinationals don't have their CEO on LinkedIn, so we can't do continuous work for them. So it's very much hitting founders, and founders respect other founders. It's we talk the same language, whether it's in Zurich or whether it's in Shanghai or Hong Kong or Sydney. Founders are still founders. They have the same challenges, the same problems, the same principles, the same desires, same drive, but many of them are introverted. And that's, we help them, me and my team help them come out of themselves and say, you need to promote this, not because you're doing anything that's fake news or lying, but actually you did a great job. And I love the fact you did this. But you're telling no one. You've got to tell people about your achievements, because if you don't do it, somebody else will come in there and get that job, get that investment, get that client. And then you'll be going, but I lost that. Yeah, because you didn't tell anyone. And I get, accused of being over-promoting, but I'd rather be over-promoting and more self-promoting than not promoting at all and nobody says, who's Chris Reed? Because then I wouldn't be responsible for myself, my family, my kids, my employees. in terms of winning clients. And you have to stand out, be prepared to be hit by people at the same time. And you're always going to get haters, and you're always going to get people who basically are going to have an opinion, but that's often good. As you know, a polarizing opinion and polarizing brand is actually a great way of generating engagement and getting done. As often, the saying goes, better be talked about than not be talked about at all. So you've got to be talking about. I mean, you know that from the IAB. You had a lot of, I really admire you for your diplomatic skills at the IAB, Vijay.
The UN of digital. But how do you, because you were always quite a confident and reasonably outspoken chap when we first met, but you've become more outspoken, more differentiated. So that was a conscious decision. How did that come about? What triggered that? What triggered Chris Reed and that brand development?
So basically, one of the first things I did here is I wrote a blog about taxi drivers. I got fired for it. And I got all the front pages of all the newspapers. And literally, I thought I was going to be expelled from Singapore, because at the time, there was other people being expelled for various things. Luckily, mine was about, Singapore taxi drivers in general. It wasn't, about race or culture or sex. It was about a particular discipline. And other people agreed with me, but more people disagreed with me. And it was on the radio, it was on the TV, the whole thing. And my boss at the time fired me, the same partnership marketing agency fired me. And he basically, that was quite a humbling and humiliating experience, shall we say, because literally, but what it taught me is I had brand recognition. I had name recognition. People who had never heard of me before suddenly knew who I was. So I obviously needed a job because I live in Singapore. So I started messaging people on LinkedIn saying, hey, this has happened to me. I'd love to meet up for a coffee. And the amount of people said, yeah, fantastic. I know who you are. I wouldn't have said what you did, but come along for a coffee. Come along for a beer. Oh, yeah, I know who you are. I saw you in the newspapers or the radio or whatever. It gave me brand recognition. To this day, it gives me brand recognition. I use it in my talks. Even though
the article, right.
I use it in my talks, yeah.
Wow.
Because the front page of the paper with a big picture of me saying, is this the most hated cab passenger in Singapore? The thing, notoriety. This is like, up there with, that's why I thought I was going to be kicked out of the country, because other people at the time were being kicked out of the country for kind of like slightly more.
So be controversial, but don't get kicked out of the country.
So it works. I suddenly realized that this works, which is why when I do the umbrella stuff, for example, I love it. And people on there basically, they pile in with kind of like, slanderous and defamatory comments, but of course it's anonymous. So nothing can happen to them. But obviously I hit them back, and it's amazing. If I hit them back, they shut up. And it's like, it is quite amazing. The whole thing about, if you bully a bully, then they start bullying you. And I learned that at school. I was bullied by one little occasion where I was bullied by the school bully who tried to bully me. I punched him. He punched me and I punched him. I knocked his tooth out. He knocked my tooth out. We both got expelled for the week. But he didn't bother me again. So you learn that on even social media is about that, if you hit people back. So I realized that even little umbrella examples, if you basically create controversy, people at least are talking about you and have a view. And then they get to know, well, what do you do? Then it's easier to actually explain your service and your brand and what you do if you have some kind of brand recognition. And ultimately, obviously, I don't want to use Mr. Trump as an example, but you look at Trump, and that's the extreme example of brand recognition over a series of catastrophic PR disasters that any other president would have stopped them in their tracks. But he's basically used his brand recognition to basically achieve his goals as a result of it. And there's a certain part of that we all need to do in terms of a bit of controversy, a bit of opinion, so you stand out within your own context to achieve your business objectives. Because if you don't stand out, there will be somebody else across the world, because we are in a global economy now, who will win that client or that investment or take that on to the next level.
And whilst we both, as marketers, have grown up with the knowledge that differentiation matters, the way you're talking about it is taking it to a new level. I mean, I'm not sure how intentional you're asking your clients to be, but you're talking about creating some level of controversy at one extreme to get engagement, to get cut through.
Don't forget,
I was going to ask then, is that new learning, or is that a belief you've always had?
No, I think that's very much new learning, because I didn't do anything. I may have been, thought-provoking in the UK, but I was nothing not controversial. So it's all about kind of like, here I realize that controversy actually makes you stand out, and actually particularly the web, because don't forget in the UK, the web didn't really, social media didn't exist, Facebook, LinkedIn didn't really exist. So then people didn't used to Google people before they met them. Now everyone, your history's on Google and LinkedIn and Facebook, but particularly on Google, you can find anything but things you posted 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago now. So it's now a kind of like, a deliberate policy to actually stand out and actually have an opinion, but be authentic. Don't make it up. Don't just say something for the sake of controversy. You actually believe in it, and I passionately believe you should do that. And then substantiate why you believe in it and have an engagement. But be true yourself. Don't just follow the crowd. But don't forget that the point I'm going to make about this is that we don't tell our clients to be controversial. We use my example of saying this is how you get cut through. Now you need to do the toned down version of that because you're targeting financial services, you're management consultants, you're targeting multinationals. So obviously having a mohawk and that kind of thing doesn't work for you. So what's your mohawk? What's your opinion? What's your controversy? So all we're doing is using this as an example for other people. And I use the tagline, what is your mohawk? What is your metaphorical mohawk? And we bring that out on LinkedIn to give you some kind of point of difference. I'll give you a great example. It's a lady called Karen Jacobson in the States, and she's the voice of the GPS. And I saw her at a conference, like 20 other speakers, and she came in going recalculating, and walking on stage. And on the stage, it has the GPS girl, and she's got the gpsgirl.com. And I remember her and nobody else from that conference. And her mohawk is the fact that she's the GPS girl. Of course, she doesn't make any money from being the GPS girl. Once you record it, that's it. It's a recording job. But she does keynote speaking, she's a coach, she's all these other things on the back of being the GPS girl. So she's the voice of GPS. So everyone's got that kind of like angle there, which they use as a kind of what I call an icebreaker, or somewhere you can talk to somebody, a rapport builder that makes you stand out. And actually say, oh yeah, she's the GPS girl. I remember how, yeah, she does this keynote speaking. I saw her, she was brilliant. Oh, we must employ her to do ours. And it just makes you remember somebody. So it's like we bring that out of people. And that's what LinkedIn's all about, is bringing the best and the aspects and the USPs out so people remember you amongst the 610 million other people on LinkedIn.
How hard is it, based on your vast experience, to help clients find that point, find their mohawk? I love the expression.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very hard because a lot of people haven't really thought about this. Yeah, even because they're not marketeers. Don't forget, you and I benefit from the fact we are marketing entrepreneurs, but they are not. They are maybe pharmaceutical or marijuana farm, or they're into medical devices or financial services or fintech or cryptocurrency or whatever. And it can be a completely different kind of area and not marketing people. So they're not thinking about USP for themselves. They're thinking about USP for their product, their service, but not for themselves. So we basically say to them, okay, what's your USP? What does Elon Musk, how does Elon Musk stand out? How does Richard Branson stand out? What's their USPs? So we bring these, we look at the USPs of these people, we bring it out in their LinkedIn marketing, their content marketing, their hashtags, their headline, their background picture, their summary section, their videos, and hammer home what they want to be known for, which can create a conversation, which can lead to someone investing with them or becoming a client or learning from them or becoming an employee or forming some kind of partnership. But you need something to form some kind of basis of relationship on, to stand you out, particularly in a crowded market. Lots of other people do what we do in terms of LinkedIn marketing. So what makes us stand out? The first one is that we actually do it for other people, which other people don't do. Many trainers in Sydney, for example, who go along, or Melbourne, actually train people up to do LinkedIn, but then they say goodbye, and then they basically have to do it themselves. You're a busy CEO, you haven't got time to do it yourself. Or busy founder, you haven't got time to do it yourself. That's why we employ 35 people in Singapore to do it for other people. That's one of our USP. The other ones is I have 3 best-selling books, for example, which is more than the other entrepreneur about LinkedIn marketing. I'm also a keynote speaker across the world with 1,100 recommendations. Again, it's my USP. It stands out. Other people don't have anything like that many recommendations. So it shows a consistent series of data points that we know what we're talking about in terms of LinkedIn. I train my team up to do that for our clients, and that's one of our USPs. So it's harder if your business, like ours, is commoditized, and our service is not unique. And our service is not unique. It's just that we do it better than anybody else because we understand it, and I understand it better than anyone else. But anyone can copy what we do, but they take a long time for them to build up that kind of credibility and reputation and stand out and recognition. Going back to brand, marketing that, so people know that, Chris Reed and Black Marketing do this. Whether you like us or hate us, we do it, and we do it very, very well.
Is there a component of kind of coaching and psychology? Because as two guys who go back a bit of a way as marketers, I've always found it fairly straightforward to market someone else's business, but it's a slightly, and I'm quite new to it. it's slightly odd, unnerving, and on many days uncomfortable to market yourself as an individual. You do it very naturally, but you've also had a lot of practice. But with your clients, is that quite an interesting tussle to kind of unlock that?
Totally. They don't want a promotion. They don't want to send out messages. They don't want to do a promotion. They don't want to do a picture. They don't want to do content. They don't want to do this, that, and the other. But they still want to win clients. You know, well, how do you win clients if you don't do all these things over here? We let people know what you do. Oh, I still get the referral. How's that referral business going? Oh, it's drying up. So I'm huge on referrals and all my friends to basically generate revenue. So what are you going to do next? And that's how we bring out to people and say, well, look, if you do this, this, and this in the context of your brand, and it can be kind of low level and introverted and sophisticated in that way, and it will appeal to this particular kind of person. But you do need to let people know what you think about X. You need to have an opinion about Y. You need to basically stand out a bit. They need to see a video of you. And a lot of people don't like videos. The amount of entrepreneurs we have who basically, we persuade them to do a video, and then they see themselves. They go, don't like that, don't use that video. It's like, it's the ultimate kind of, well, there's nothing I can do about that. It's like, if you don't like yourself on video, one, you have to basically get over yourself by saying it's not rocket science, it's not Shakespeare, it's not going to be around for years and years and years. It's not being made by 20th Century Fox for Oscars. It's just literally to communicate a little couple of messages and your personality. If they meet you, you look like this. I hate to tell you. So whether you like it or not, you look like that. You can't change that unless you have plastic surgery. So, get over yourself. It's like a blog. It's like,
right. It's
not Shakespeare. You get 2 or 3 points over, people move on to the next thing. But people overanalyze and think people are going to be looking back in 100 years' time. Oh, do you remember that blog on that LinkedIn thing that person wrote? It was amazing. I said, no, it's not going to do that. They will have forgotten about it tomorrow. So literally...
Personal branding, let's face it, wasn't a thing 20 years ago.
No.
It was barely a thing 10 years ago. But now it seems to be, and I guess it's a wave that you ride, and one could argue have also helped to create. It seems such an important thing. Why is that?
I think it's because people are buying into people more and more now, because the internet have allowed people to have a personal brand, and people realize that they can market themselves like they market a company. But they realize also that people feel more warmly on a one-on-one basis with a person than they do a company. Which is why LinkedIn's all about people, it's not about companies, which is why company pages on LinkedIn stink with no engagement, no one follows them, whereas the leaders of those same companies people engage with, whether it's Bill Gates or Jeff Weiner or Arnie Sorrison or Richard Branson, people feel close to people. So people like Branson was ahead of the game when it comes to personal branding. He was doing it in the 70s. He realized by putting his face on the front page of the Sun newspaper, for example, and saying, BA are beating me up, BA unfair, I'm Little and Virgin Atlantic, he was using his personal brand to promote that. And by doing so, he could then launch 100 other Virgin brands based on his personal brand. He was way, way, way ahead of his time. And actually, everyone else has now followed suit. People like Elon Musk, for example, do it very well. And now all us little entrepreneurs are realizing the same thing. The thing that differentiates all us keynote speakers and entrepreneurs is our personal branding. And I think the internet and social media particularly has allowed this to basically manifest itself to the next level, where you can control that to a degree, but you can at least present yourself in the myriad forms and choose to participate in. And I choose LinkedIn, other people choose Instagram or Facebook or YouTube to present their personal brands. But they realize that basically everyone's an entrepreneur these days, whether they like it or not. The whole economy now, the gig economy, is that we're all basically looking at the next job, the next investment. No one's got a job for life. No one's safe anymore. Whereas when you and I grew up, people were expecting to have pensions in 30, 40 years' time and work for the same company. That's all gone. So now people realize that people have to actually work a bit harder to justify why someone should invest in them. And everyone's basically an entrepreneur, whether they like it or not.
Right. And therefore, everyone needs to maintain a personal brand. Right.
Whether they like it, no matter how uncomfortable they feel about it.
Moving to the third and final question, and to some extent, I think you've answered this. I've certainly got a good sense of what defines you, and it's been a trip down memory lane to some extent. I've learned a lot about everything new, content creation, personal branding, and working with entrepreneurs. When you put the two together, my third question is really around, what are the things that you've unlearned? I've got this line, which you might like. You remember the line which was 50% of my marketing doesn't work. I just don't know what 50%.
Yes.
So my slight tweak to that is 50% of my marketing knowledge is a pile of crap. Do I know which 50%? So thinking about the knowledge you learned 25 years ago, what's the stuff you've dumped because you go, nah, this makes no sense anymore? Is there any knowledge or thinking that you just have changed? Have there been moments in the last 5 or 10 years where you've gone right because of LinkedIn or the state of social media? These old rules are wrong.
I think speed, more than anything in the world, speed, because in the times when we were doing marketing, we could send out letters and mail outs. And the first time that somebody would hear about something when they got a letter. And that's why I joked about the fax machine. We didn't have email or social media, so we actually had to we wanted to get an announcement out. We could use radio. We used a fax machine to let people know that a new show was on sale. And you literally had no other choice apart from going around and knocking on their doors and handing them something. A fax machine was the nearest thing we actually had. So actually speed nowadays, of course, if I want to announce something, boom, I can do a database of 1 million people. I can put it on LinkedIn, social, I can put Facebook, Instagram, I can do YouTube, I can do adverts on Google. I can let literally 1 billion people know within half an hour. Whereas that would be absolutely impossible for you and I back 20, 25 years ago. Even if we bought all the TV in the world, we couldn't do it. It'd be phenomenally expensive. So speed and the ability to basically, I think, screw things up now is much more apparent, because obviously if you basically go that fast, you can make more mistakes. Whereas in our day, for example, where if you basically send out a mail out and you do the mistake, it's like, that's okay, we can send out a new mail out, or the fax will do, but the advert a week later or 2 weeks later, the creative's changed, and we got total time to actually send this out. There was no rush to do anything. There was no speed to anything at all, because it didn't matter. The poster campaign was months away. The radio campaign be planned. There was nothing like happening this moment until it was that urgent that would actually happen. And everything, word of mouth was literally word of mouth. It wasn't Facebook word of mouth or social media word of mouth, or LinkedIn word of mouth. It was actually people talking to each other down the pub. And it's like that has changed. That's the biggest single factor. It's both an advantage and a disadvantage. And it's like, so you have to basically learn now. So the bits that your brain basically then would say, okay, it's okay if we make a mistake in this because we can resurrect it by the time we do this. You can't do that anymore because everything's going out at the same time.
Does that mean with more speed that, because I think I always think of this kind of tension point, which is, because I buy the speed thing, and the tension or the paradox between speed and production value. Doing a video like this and being able to put it out, you don't need to do, what was your phrase earlier, 20th Century Fox production. but your point being is it does have to be accurate.
Yeah.
So your guidance around content to clients is then speed matters over amazing production value.
Correct. And be authentic. So we tell people to be authentic, be themselves, and just get it out there. It is basically, more and more people are realizing that's the way to do it. No one's going to look at this video and analyze it. Oh, the production values aren't particularly great. In fact, that we find that many, many people distrust you if your production values are too good. So if you go into some polished studios, you got a tie on, you're doing something with a nice green room, for example, nice green backgrounds, and it's all very polished, it's basically, it's fake, it's not authentic. Whereas if you look at what you and I are doing now in terms of just having a chat and engaging and basically talking off the cuff, then basically it's totally authentic. And people buy into this much more than they would do some CEO who gets up and does some stupid speech they've been told to write by the corporate communications person, because it's not authentic, it's not them. I want to see them down the pub talking about it with their tie off kind of thing, having relaxing and then doing a video there. That's what would make me empathize with that person, engage with that person as a CEO, as a leader. And that's what I think Branson's always understood by ditching the tie, and Musk has understood, to varying degrees. And it has to be, you have to be natural, you have to be yourself. You can't fake it anymore. People basically are watching every single moment that you do things. Therefore, why bother pretending to be someone you're not? Be yourself, because then people won't actually catch you out, because there's nothing to catch out. You are yourself.
You've been listening to the Best of Both podcast from the Bold Intern. If these ideas resonate with you, check out more Bold Intern content on Vijay's LinkedIn page.